Hi, everyone. Welcome to Podband Pipecast.
The premier pipe band podcast.
Been a while since we had to say that.
And every time I say it, it still just messes me up. Welcome, everyone. It's just the two of us today.
Yeah, no friends today.
No friends. Just like hashtag quarantine life. No friends. So today we're talking about uniforms.
Yay!
Yay!
Love a good uniform.
A good, not comfy, but nice, sharp-looking uniform.
So sharp and sharp. Yep.
Sharp, pointy edges. First of all, if you don't know the names of all the parts of your uniform, you got it. Like, you're wearing it. So, especially in the U.S., where you wear what we wear for pipe band, and people are like, "What is that? Why are you dressed like in a school uniform for like a Catholic school? What is going on?" Maybe you're a man, and they're like, "Why are you wearing a skirt?" And then you'll be like, "Look, this is what it is." So, and I've legitimately like known people who are in pipe bands who don't know what like a sporran is called. They're like, the thing that you put your car keys in.
The little like, front bag.
Yeah, that fanny pack. So let's talk about typical pipe band uniform for a minute. What's in a typical pipe band uniform?
Got your hat.
Got your hat. That's a good one.
Yeah. Got your shirt.
Shirt, usually like a dress shirt. You could be like short sleeve or long sleeve. I think long sleeve is like more, I don't know, seen as more professional. I don't know. I guess. Men's dress
like short sleeves better.
I mean, when it's hot, we kind of prefer short sleeve, but it's always just a men's dress shirt, which makes it really interesting when you're a woman to like, oh, this is the shirt the band wears. And it's like, all right, well, that doesn't fit me. So hat, shirt, tie.
Yep.
That one.
Classic tie. There's nothing exciting about it.
No, unless you have a really cool tie. If your band has a really cool looking tie that's like different colors or what. I like ours. Ours is cool. Has our logo on it. Has stripes. It's pretty nice.
Stripes are fun.
Fun fact. I saw a picture of our band from like the 80s, like the early days. And they had like the old kilts and everything. And the men had ties and the women had these cute little like bow ties. They were like little, not like bow ties, they were kind of like bows. And I was like, that's cute. My mom, who obviously was one of the women in the picture, was like, yeah, that's what women used to wear, just little bows in our band because we didn't want to wear ties because ties are for men. But now we wear ties.
But like, let's bring back the bows. That sounds fun.
They're cute. I mean, yeah. We could all just wear bow ties. I feel like that would be pretty fun.
Yes. Bow ties are cool.
Yeah. You get extra points if you know where that reference is from.
Yes.
So anyway, you got your bow, your tie. What else?
Got your vest.
Vest. Waistcoat.
Oh, yes, waistcoat.
Waistcoat.
Got your sporran, like we mentioned.
Like we mentioned. If you don't know what that is, you should.
What are you doing?
Your kilt. That's an important.
Yeah. Have to have that. Or anything, you got that.
Yeah. Or your trews, if you wear trews. I don't think I've ever seen a band like fully outfitted in trews.
Did you not watch our Minecraft episode?
I mean, okay. Until then, I hadn't seen a band fully outfitted in trews. Those are pants, by the way. Kilt pants, I guess.
Pant kilt. Yes.
And then you
got
your, oh, I'm sorry.
Got a belt? Maybe, sometimes.
Sometimes. There's like a weird rule where if you wear a vest, you shouldn't wear a belt, and vice versa. If you don't wear a vest, you should wear a belt. So
Yes.
yeah.
Got your socks?
Socks. Kilt toes, as they
Yes.
call them. Ours are black. I remember the days when we had white. Those were hard to keep clean, but you know, I feel like it's nice having the contrast between the black shoes and the white socks. It was like, oh, I can see, and now it's just like all black, which is fine. I mean, that's the fashion nowadays. What do I know about fashion?
Let's get some red socks, like the sports.
Yeah, we could start wearing soccer socks. Sock. Or football, as they say in the UK, football socks.
Football socks.
Yeah. So yeah, and then you got your shoes, and then you got your flashes, I guess, because you got to hold up your socks. So that's cool. So today we thought, now that you're familiar with all the pieces of uniform, which you should have been anyway, but we thought we would talk about the history of these items and if these are anything like people used to wear back in the day. So we got some information from, which we're going to link in the descriptions of this video, from Lochcarron and from the Scottish Tartans Authority. People who make kilts and kilt items and just love kilt items, and that's their thing. So yeah, we're going to talk about, we always like say that what we do is very much based on history, and it is, but you can also see kind of how it's evolved, because we don't wear exactly the same thing that people wore in the 1700s.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. First of all, elephant in the room, like, we're women, and women did not wear anything like the pipe band uniform back in 1700s. That was not a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Let's talk about kilts.
There's so much about kilts to talk about.
There's so much. So I was looking up the history of tartans, which I think we might have mentioned this on a previous episode. I don't remember exactly, but it's one of those things where, like, I don't really want to get into tartan history because as soon as you say anything about tartans and like the history of tartans, it makes people mad because like you don't know when tartans came from. Like apparently, according to these websites, and once again, these websites, people who make tartan and are the national people who keep track of tartan, they're literally authorities. Tartans were not necessarily like based on the clans as we think of them. So there's a whole like geography behind, like, you know, tartans were made with different colors that they had in that geographical area based on like the ancient dyes and everything. And it's really quite interesting. But if you were to time, like, let's say you're like a Macintosh, which is my family, and you were to time travel back to like olden times, and they may not be wearing the traditional, what you think is a traditional like Macintosh tartan. May not. So that's okay. It's fine. So that's why I don't want to get into tartan history, because some people just like, oh, well, this is what my ancestors wore, and like, it's fine. Maybe it is. I don't know specifically for the tartan you're talking about. But so we'll skip all that. We'll go with kilts, We're just talking kilts. The object that you wear instead of pants when you're in a pipe band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this picture on this website, I feel like it looks kind of like a bird.
It does look like a bird when you kind of like.
Yeah, like when you're not thinking about it too hard. I thought it was a bird.
By the way, if you're on our Patreon, you can be watching the video of this and you can see the strange bird man that we're talking about. I appreciate that they showed the back of the kilt in this picture though, because like, first of all, what is this? Describe this picture for the people who can't see it.
It's a plaid bird man. So back in the day, kilts were a full body like blanket thing that was meant to also keep you warm and nice and toasty. So this guy is just wrapped in tartan.
Yeah, like head to toe, almost toe. Well,
head to knee.
Head to knee. But it looks like in pipe bands, we have like an emphasis on looking very clean cut, and I think a lot of that comes from like the military style or the background that pipe bands have. And like that dude, there's nothing military about this dude. He's just swathed in this massive blanket.
He looks pretty cozy.
He does. He looks like if it was a Scottish winter, he'd be pretty warm, except for his legs. I don't know why they thought the knees would not get cold. Maybe, I don't know, you tell me. If you're in the snow, do your knees get cold? I don't know.
I don't have snow.
We don't have snow here, unless you go up north, so I don't know. So yeah, let's talk about this interesting kilt thing. What is this kilt thing that's just basically a blanket and
the belted plaid or the great kilt?
It's a great kilt. Or the Fila, which I guess that's the pronunciation. I'm following the pronunciation keys, so if that's wrong, I apologize. I thought this was amusing, learning about the story of how they would put it on. They have on the Scottish Tartans Authority, because they said that, there was this idea that people had where they would like lay down this swath of tartan and they would like roll around on it.
I enjoyed that bit.
Yeah. And then on Scottish Tartans Authority, where we were reading this, once again, they're an authority. They said let's use common sense here, guys. Like that's fun to think about. And maybe if you were rich and you had 18 feet of tartan, you could do that. But otherwise, you were just like, I gotta go milk those cows. I'm gonna throw on my belted plaid and my great kilt and just go out, do my thing. You wouldn't spend time rolling around on the floor, because that doesn't make any sense.
And it's gonna get all dirty. Got dirty floors.
Yeah. Or like
dirty clothes. You're
like outside, you gotta put it on, you gotta roll around, like it's gonna get wet. Yeah.
In the one of these websites, it was saying that by day the kilts were like clothing, and then by night it was the blanket, and that you could not wash the stink off because you were always in it.
Which is very true to like I mean, it's wool, right? So you can't even, I mean, you can wash it, but everyone always says, oh, you shouldn't wash wool, you shouldn't get wool wet. Well, yeah, that's it's like wearing the same shirt every day. You can never wash it because you're always wearing it.
Wearing the same shirt and sleeping in that shirt and then going outside in that shirt and getting it all sweaty and gross and then still wearing it.
But I'm sure there's people in pipe bands who never wash any of their uniform. So, they're actually being very traditional. Like,
Sure.
share this episode with someone who needs to wash their uniform. Let's do that. Just be like, oh, you gotta listen to this, dude.
Or share it with someone who does wash their uniform as justification for not needing to wash it.
Yes.
It's traditional.
Traditional.
Yeah.
So how did we get from the whole thing, big blanket tartan, wrapped all around yourself, to what we think of as the modern kilt, which, I mean, great kilts still exist. Obviously, you can still wear those, but like, we only have like the lower body portion now.
Wasn't that called a short kilt?
Yeah, the short kilt, or I feel like it had a different name.
I think it did.
Feel a beg, the little kilt. So really, when we're talking about pipe band kilts, we're talking about little kilts.
Yes.
Kilt. So small.
Except they're not little.
They're not little at all. They're heavy, and yeah. I think it's interesting how they say there's a lot of arguments over the history of the little kilt, because like, I don't know if you read the story about the Englishman.
Yeah.
One source indicates that the inventor of the little kilt was an Englishman.
Nope. Refuse. Deny. It's too Scottish.
No. Yeah, it's not happening. So obviously there's arguments about it, and it may not be the real story. Probably, most likely, kind of like when we talked about the history of bagpipes, it was probably not one dude. It was probably like a bunch of people who were just like, you know what, I don't want this whole huge thing on my shoulder. I just want like the bottom part instead of wearing pants, because I don't like wearing pants. It's probably like a bunch of people at one time who started doing this, is what, the general consensus is. But Mr. Thomas Rawlinson caused quite a stir, because he's apparently, some people believe, he is the creator of the small kilt, but he's an Englishman, and that's not okay, because kilts are Scottish, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
An Englishman modernizing kilts? Not in my good Scottish town.
Doesn't happen. Oh, the other thing was, that I thought was interesting, is the great kilts have hand-folded pleats. And the thing about the small kilt, when people started wearing small kilts, was the pleats were stitched in. And of course, now we have kilts that have the pleats stitched in, so you don't have to like hand roll the pleats. And it was interesting to me, because I was like, probably someday, some guy, like, he threw on his kilt, he like got up after using the kilt as a blanket, threw it on, and was like, hey, this little wavy pattern looks real nice. I'm gonna make that look even nicer. He like put his own pleats in there. And then like over time, people were like, oh, that guy knows what he's doing. So they kept like doing that. And then small kilt happened, and people were like, you know what? We're stitching them in, so we don't have to do that anymore.
I also like the story of how that Englishman invented it. He was blacksmithing in that big ass great kilt and was like, man, this is not efficient. Which, like, yeah, I can't imagine trying to blacksmith wrapped in a wool blanket.
Yeah. And like it's like getting everywhere, and like maybe you catch it on fire. I don't know. I'm not a blacksmith, so I don't know. So he just like hacked it off and was like, this is my kilt.
This is what we wear now. And then everybody was like, sure, you got it.
And then everyone else is probably like, isn't that just basically a skirt now? And he's like, no, it has pleats that are stitched in. This is for men.
It's efficient.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty fun. Who knows? Who knows? The Scots are very patriotic, at least in like his historical things. They're not gonna let an Englishman get credit for it.
Mhm.
He probably did that, but like other people probably also did it. We don't know.
He just said it the loudest.
Yeah. I am glad that we don't still wear great kilts and pipe bands, though.
I can't imagine doing that. It's too dang hot.
Yeah, no.
I would die.
I already feel bad for those like service bands, and so when we talked to the Arizona Fire Service pipe band representatives, they talked about how they have to wear the plaids, which are like a big. It kind of reminds me of a great kilt, how it's like the swath of tartan and then it's buckled and kind of reminds me of that. And they're like, yeah, it's a big thing that's always there. Like if you wear it properly, it's not. If you wear it properly, it's not really going to be in the way, but it's still there.
You still gotta put it on. You still gotta wear it.
Yeah. So that's kilts.
Yeah.
Fun. What next? I thought this was very amusing. The history of trews from the Scottish Tartans Authority, because it was kind of just reported that like people used to wear kilts, but then it was cold, so then they made them into pants. It's
So
like
the knees.
yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. And I know there's a whole, it doesn't get into it really on these websites, but I've heard there's a whole tradition around who wears the trews and which regiments used to wear trews in the military. And that's another thing that, like, as time went on, there was that moment when the crown banned wearing of certain items of clothing made of tartan. So like you couldn't wear certain Highland dress things unless you were rich, interestingly enough. If you're rich, you could do whatever you want. If you were a lord, you could just, I don't know, I'm just gonna wear this. But they banned certain Highland dress, but the regiments were still allowed to wear them. So if you weren't rich, you could only wear it really and not get arrested if you were like in the military. So there's a whole thing about that too. So look that up. It's called the Dress Act, which is part of the
Did
act.
you see the punishment though if you got caught wearing a kilt?
No, what was it?
You got 6 months imprisonment for the first offense, and then if they caught you a second time, you were to be transported to any of His Majesty's plantations beyond the sea to remain there for 7 years.
So all you Australians, some of you might have gone there because you just wanted to wear your kilt.
And at that point, it became a form of protest to wear a kilt, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting because after, because the Highland dress was kind of seen as like a rebellious thing, because there was the Jacobite Rebellion in 1745 when it kind of ended after, like 1746 was like, I guess the end of it maybe. You can correct me on my history if I'm wrong in the comments, whatever. But it ended and then they're like, all right, we gotta make sure this doesn't happen again. So they're like, it's basically if you're wearing Highland dress, that's like a gang sign. So don't do that. But then once again, like I said, like the lords and the gentrified folk could do whatever they wanted, and they did. But then I feel like after that is when it became more of like a military thing. So that's where a lot of our pipe band traditions come from, because that was kind of probably most of the way that you would see Highland dress was in the military.
Yeah.
Which trews, that's another thing that's in the military.
Because you could ride horses and keep your knees warm.
Yeah. Which makes total sense. They're like, why didn't we think of this before? Yes. So speaking of keeping your knees warm, socks,
Yes.
aka hose. So I think it's interesting how Scottish Tartans Authority says that they used the ancient Scots used to like wearing tall socks, but they would frequently fall down. And you know, so what you had to do is you could never skip leg day, because if you skip leg day, everyone would know because your socks fell down.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not what this website says, but
But it's a fact.
it is a fact. So you know what? I think we should have a challenge, like especially because, like, I mean, coronavirus. What else are you gonna do? Go to the gym. Don't skip leg day, and see if you can wear your kilt toes without your flashes on, and see if they fall down. Because if they still fall down, you're obviously not working hard enough on your calves.
Except I think gyms are closed, so go like walk around in a circle in your
Don't
backyard.
go to the gym. At home. There's all kinds of things you can do at home to strengthen your calf muscles so that eventually we no longer need flashes.
There we go. Life hack, get good legs, don't wear flashes.
Yeah. Just get better legs. Yeah. And
I also enjoy that it's just like they were basically like a cloth bag thing that you would put on your leg as socks. That's it. That's your sock, is like a cloth bag thing.
yeah, it just, and also some of them didn't even have feet on them, so they were just kind of like leg warmers. Like, and I, I guess they maybe were like, I don't need to wear socks on my feet because, like, they're gonna get dirty because I'm gonna be walking around. So, like,
I think it mentions later that a lot of people walked around barefoot rather than wearing shoes, which, I'm all for that. Forget shoes. But moving on to shoes real quick, it also says that shoes were made of deer, cow, or horse hide. So, like, yeah, I wouldn't want to wear shoes either.
right? And it also says that they smelled really bad because, like,
yeah.
hide. So I'm picturing this image, which is actually quite frightening to me. This is a big swathed tartan man, just a lump of tartan, because that's how the great kilts work. And he is not wearing shoes. Instead, he's wearing like pieces of like hide with the fur still on it, like strapped to his feet, and leg warmers, which keep falling down. And he's playing an instrument that is like this bag of hide also, that sounds like a dying cat, and like that must have been freaking scary.
No wonder they banned it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. Anyway, so this thing about the socks falling down, like, obviously that was a problem, and like whenever there's a problem, someone's
gotta
gonna
get a solution. Yeah.
Like, there's going to be some entrepreneur who's going to come around and be like, you know what? I have a solution to this problem.
It's leg ties.
Yeah.
Because they tie it like a tie.
It's a thing that you tie around your sock to keep your sock from falling down. That's brilliant.
Duh. Just tie them up.
Yeah. So, garters, which we call flashes, I think that's pretty common terminology. I should look it up. What did I expect? I just Googled flashes, and it's talking about photography. Because,
of course.
Yeah, that's pretty common terminology. But on this website, they refer to them as garters, and technically they're the same I'm going to say they're the same thing, but someone's going to be like, no, they're not the same thing. It's something that holds up your socks.
Yes.
And originally, they were made of hay or straw. So it said. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I guess it says plaited, so maybe they braided up some hay and just tied them around their legs. I don't know why you wouldn't use string if you have material to make a bag to put on your foot. I would imagine that you have material to make a string to tie it with, but I don't know.
I was definitely, when I read that earlier, I was picturing them like stuffing their sock with the hay to make their legs bigger. But now that you're saying that, I realized I read that wrong.
Although, if you skipped leg day, I mean, you could just stuff some hay in there, right?
Yeah, that would totally be comfortable.
By the way, it sounds like we're making fun of this. I don't want to sound like irreverent or anything, but we're just it's entertaining, right? Maybe there was a reason they didn't have string. I don't know.
Maybe I was not there in 1870.
Yeah. Maybe they 1870. I'm sure they had string by then. But it is interesting how so people started weaving strips of fabric to tie around their legs to hold up their socks so they didn't have to use hay and whatever. And then they became a little bit more like they had like a special knot, which was kind of like tying a necktie, apparently. So you'd be tying like a necktie around your leg, like a leg tie.
Leg tie, that's what I said.
Yeah. And this knot is actually quite interesting. And it has little tassels on the end of the garter. And I think this is very pretty. And I would be totally about bringing this back. Because, like, what we have now is just like a piece of like elastic and it has like some little flags on it. And that's fine. And, you know, that's fine. But leg ties.
Leg ties. Start a petition. We're bringing them back.
Hashtag leg ties.
2021 is the season of leg ties.
Yes.
If there is a season.
That's the joke. It's the season of leg ties. See, 2020 is the season of leg ties, but there is no season, so. But yeah, 2021 will be fine. It'll be good. Yeah, so footwear. We already kind of talked about footwear, but not in depth.
Keep going. Tell me about some footwear.
You know, it's stuff you wear on your feet.
Nice.
So frequently, Highlanders would not wear shoes, which I don't blame them because who likes wearing shoes? Like foot prisons, am I right? That's like a thing.
A barefoot movement make it legal again.
Yeah, barefoot pipe band. Although I will say I'm very glad for shoes in many occasions, such as going into Porta Johns at Highland.
Oh, true. I was just thinking how hot the ground would be.
Oh, true.
Be burning my feet.
Yeah, the pavement here gets like, what is it, like 30 degrees hotter than the air, which means 150. That's why you're supposed to put little booties on your dogs. If you have a dog and you walk your dog, you have to have little shoes on because it's too hot.
If it's too hot for you, it's too hot for them.
Yeah. So maybe not barefoot all the time.
Yeah, if only it wasn't so hot.
Yeah, wasn't so hot and wasn't so like germ infested. Then it might be cool. But anyway, so the story is that they didn't just have no shoes. Of course, they had shoes if they needed to wear shoes. they were shoes that were called this word in Gaelic, which I'm going to try to pronounce, Brogan Tionda. Tonde. I don't know if that's how you say it. But
I'm gonna Google it real quick.
that sounded a little bit more Japanese than I wanted it to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it didn't.
Brogan Tionde?
Yes. I don't know if that's accurate.
Brogan Tionde.
Somebody tell us how to say that, please. Thank you.
No one knows. So these shoes, anyway, the shoes were just like a piece of deer skin that they would just put on the ground, like kind of like we said earlier, and this furry side down. So you're not like, because deer fur on your foot might be weird. I don't know. Furry side down, put your foot on top, and then you pull it up over your foot and you cut off the excess, you punch some holes in it, and then you thread some, another like strip of deer skin as like laces. You thread it through there. And then the interesting problem that they had with this was that if you had them on your feet for too long and maybe you're like Scotland is very wet, right? It rains a lot. Your feet are going to get wet. When you get wet feet in your shoes, you get trench foot. That's a very bad thing. So in order to prevent that from happening, they would cut holes in the bottoms of the shoes. And there's this interesting quote by this Captain Burt, who's an English engineering officer, who was sent to Inverness in 1730. And he has like an interesting quote here about, he almost like he's looking down on them for like their shoes. He says they're often barefoot, but obviously he describes the shoes. They are not only offensive to the sight, but intolerable to the smell of those who are near them. Typical Englishmen, am I right?
So like, see, you got your stinky kilts because you're constantly in it, and you got your stinky shoes, which are gonna get your socks all stinky, which you're just a big old bunch of stink.
Just a ball of stink. Playing your obnoxious bagpipe instrument. Man.
Just scaring the children with your sounds and your stink.
Yeah, and he goes on to say, to describe how they cut holes in the bottoms of their shoes, which you would think kind of like defeats the purpose of having shoes, but like it does serve a purpose that you let the water out. Now, of course, our shoes look very much different. Really, our shoes are just like men's dress shoes.
Basically.
With like tall laces. And I was not able to find a reason for the tall laces. It might have been something else like involving holding up your socks. I don't know that. But there's also a whole science on like how many times you're supposed to twist the laces, like so you put them behind and like twist it and then put it in front. And like it's like a thing. And I don't know why. I don't think there was ever Mr. Gillibrode who was like, dude, this is how you do shoes. Maybe there was. Who knows? I'm sure part of it came from maybe the British Army had standards for how you were supposed to dress because they would wear that kind of stuff and they'd be like, you know what? We all got to look the same. This is what we do. That's probably what some of this is from.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I wouldn't want to wear stinky deerskin shoes, but I can.
With holes in the bottom?
Yeah. I mean, they're better than nothing, right?
I think though, if I'm wearing nothing, I won't get trench foot.
Well,
or stink foot.
I mean, true. But you would also have to step in things you might not want to step in.
I mean, trench foot, stepping things. I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? I did think it was interesting that looking at these like drawings of what the shoes used to look like. They look really similar to like modern dance gillies.
Yeah.
Because they don't have like, so meaning like shoes that the dancers wear for Highland dance. They don't have a sole really. The shoes, not the dancers. Um, the shoes don't really have a sole. They kind of just, they're just fabric. And I think the dancers probably also, because that's the thing with dance shoes, you don't want to have a sole because then you're going to be like smacking it on the ground unless you want that because you're a tap dancer, whatever. But yeah, that was interesting to me that they looked very similar to dance shoes.
Yeah, so Sporin next week. Spore on that next week. Like more on
more on this, that, the Sporin and more kinds of stuff next week, as well as, you know, discussions for what we think we should bring back from our ancient traditions and what we should definitely not bring back.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this show, then support us on Patreon for exclusive content as well as the video of us recording this. We'll have special exercises we'll be writing as well as tips and tricks with tenor drumming and other instruments to come. Subscribe to us on YouTube for some tenor tutorials and possibly other tutorials later on. And like us on Facebook at Podband Pipecast.